let's jump into our first story. Parents are suing over claims that teachers encourage their 6th grade daughter to join LGBTQ club, but keep it a secret. Girls were told if they are not happy in their bodies, they are transgender. 2 Colorado families, hang on, let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. That good? Yeah. 2 Colorado families are suing their children's school district. Hang on. That's better. That's better for me anyway. 2 Colorado families are suing their children's school district over allegations that the teachers and administrators encourage their daughters to join an LGBTQ club and keep the activities a secret from them. America First Policy Institute and Illuminate Legal filed a lawsuit on Wednesday against the Pooter. I have learned how to pronounce this now. Against the Pooter School District on behalf of Jonathan and Erin Lee and Nick and Leanna Jurek, whose 6th grade daughters attended Wellington Middle School, according to a copy of the law obtained a lawsuit by the Daily Caller. And I want to show you guys. So you can actually see this story of what happened. I covered it on the Substack. Let me show you. It was a little bit ago. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted at all. See all. Let me show you. Nope. Before that. This is going back into the archives a little bit. There's Erin Lee. That was a great conversation on the channel, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. I actually covered this story even before I met Erin because Erin unveiled emails from the school district. And so you can actually go and see all of the emails where they're talking about this stuff. This is all public information. Erin did a great job. And so that's all available in the Substack as well. And now that is the same person that is now suing. The activities of the Gay Straight Alliance were not known to the parents, and those who headed to the club's meetings actively encouraged students to keep talks about polyamory, puberty blockers, transgenderism, gender identity, sexuality, offing themselves, and name and pronoun changes a secret from their parents. Teachers also invited substitute teacher Kimberly Chambers, who is an executive director of Supporting Pride Learning and Social Happenings, or SPLASH, the organization that seeks to educate school-age children on the topics of sexuality and gender identity, to talk at one of their GSA meetings, which Lee's 6th grade daughter attended, according to the lawsuit. Chambers reportedly told the children that if they are not completely comfortable in their bodies, that means they're transgender, while giving a talk to the school club on May 4th, 2021. Guys, you have got to make sure you know what your kids are doing. I know this might seem overbearing, but Erin Lee's daughter was convinced that she was trans within one meeting of this club. That's the truth. You can go back and watch the interview with Erin. She talked about it. She was convinced she was trans within one meeting of this club. And then she got really depressed because her parents didn't know, and her parents didn't know what was going on. The child got really depressed, and the parents were trying to figure out what was going on. And it wasn't until like weeks later that their daughter told them what was going on, and the school never did anything. The school never notified them, nothing. And so this is serious, guys. You have got to know what your kids are doing when they're in the schools, and do not allow your kids to go anywhere near a GSA. GSA is like one of the ground zero places. GSA, which is now Gender Sexuality Alliance, it doesn't stand for Gay Straight Alliance anymore. It used to back in the day. Now it's Gender Sexuality Alliance. They also have things called rainbow clubs, which are exactly the same thing. You need to make sure your kids are staying away from those. Okay? And there's our splash teachers. A safe space for all youth, ages 12 through 18. We should probably take a look at them at some point. Don't those look like well-adjusted adults that you definitely want your kids learning from? The teacher also had children discuss what gender and sex they are attracted to and gave students LGBTQ paraphernalia such as toys, flags, and other swag if they came out as transgender. Oh, so they got free sparkly things if they came out as trans. Oh, that's nice. The teacher told students that there was a higher likelihood of offing themselves by transgender youth, but the Lee family said their daughter did not fully understand what that even was at the time. Chambers also repeatedly told students it might not be safe to tell their parents what happened at the GSA meeting or to talk about transgender issues, and instead suggested they speak with her and other teachers. She checked this out. She offered students her phone number and told them to connect with her on Discord so they could contact her at any time. So these people, right there, same people in the photograph, they told Aaron Lee's daughter in the 6th grade that it was unsafe to tell your parents that you are at a gender and sexuality alliance meeting. They gave her daughter free swag and sparkle and rainbow things if they came out as trans at the meeting. They then said, because it's unsafe to tell your parents that you are at this meeting, let me give you my personal phone number and my Discord so that you can contact me privately and talk about being trans because it's not safe to tell your parents. Yeah, I would say that these people deserve to be sued. Maybe that's just my opinion. The Lees were excited that their shy daughter was asked to get involved in school activities because she had not been given many opportunities to make friends. But they were alarmed to find out that upon returning home from the meeting, she told them that she would be transitioning despite never having had any thoughts about transgenderism before the meeting. Their daughter has since said she no longer desires to transition, but endured a months long emotional decline of gender and sexuality confusion that included counseling and included thoughts. Okay, included thoughts. Now, here's what I always try to tell people. People say all the time, I can't homeschool my kids. I can't homeschool my kids. It's too inconvenient. I just can't do it. All these reasons I can't homeschool my kids. I don't know why you would ask a single parent to homeschool their kids, Karlyn. Don't you know that people need to work? Don't you know that we have jobs? We can't homeschool our kids. Okay, fine. However, I promise you the inconvenience that you will experience figuring out how to homeschool your kids when there are all sorts of different solutions around that right now. There are family pods that get together to homeschool kids. There are all sorts of groups that can help you figure out how to do this. There are parents all over the country that figure out how to do this every day. And I know it's inconvenient and I know it's not what you want to hear and I know it's not what you want to do, but I promise you, the inconvenience of figuring out how to homeschool your children will pale in comparison to the inconvenience that you experience when your little darling comes home after secretly attending a meeting of the Gay Straight Alliance in which they are, Gender and Sexuality Alliance, not Gay Straight Alliance anymore. It will pale in comparison to the inconvenience of your little darling coming home after secretly attending a meeting of the Gender Sexuality Alliance in which the leader of the meeting, the teacher, says, don't tell your parents this, and then convinces your kid that they are trans when they are not trans. They have never had any thoughts of being trans. This has never been a thing except the school introduced it to them and then gave them all sorts of sparkly things and rainbow paraphernalia and flags and t-shirts and whatever if they just come out as trans at the Gender Sexuality Alliance meeting. And then your kid comes home and they don't tell you what's going on because the teachers at the school have said, Don't tell your parents this is a secret. You won't be safe. Your parents might kick you out of the house. Your parents aren't going to love you anymore if you come out as trans, so just don't tell them. So your kid doesn't tell you what's going on, but your kid starts to get depressed and anxious and have all sorts of problems. Even though the kid was fine before, now there are real problems, and you don't know what's going on until months later when the kid finally breaks down and tells you, and then you have to put your kid in therapy for months and months and months and months and months to deprogram them from the nonsense that they heard at the Gender Sexuality Alliance meeting. I know that homeschooling is not convenient for many people, or you don't perceive it to be convenient. But I promise you, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot better. Your kids are going to do better. Your kids are going to learn more. Your kids are going to be protected from all this insanity. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee that the schools are going to trans your kids, because it's not. It's really not. Kids go to school every single day without being transed by the school district. However, if your kids are shy, if your kids are autistic, if your kids maybe are not part of like the cool kids club, they maybe don't fit in. They're kind of like they're kind of like in the out group sort of thing. Those kids are particularly susceptible to this sort of thing, because what happens when they come out as trans is all of a sudden everyone wants to be their friend, and all of a sudden everyone's giving them positive affirmation. All of a sudden, like these people who they never talked to before, they want to be their friend, and they're saying, "Oh my God, you're stunning and brave and beautiful," and they're getting all this positive reinforcement. Those kids are particularly susceptible to that sort of thing. And so Erin even said her daughter was shy. Her daughter wasn't involved. This is the thing that got her daughter involved. I was shy in school. I am absolutely convinced. I've thought about this a lot. I am absolutely convinced that if I had gone to school today, I'm a massive tomboy. I have never ascribed to gender stereotypes. I had crazy hair in schools. I was always really rebellious of what the status quo was. I am absolutely convinced that if I went to school today, they would absolutely trans me. 100%. And I think a lot of people can look back and say the same thing. And so, I understand homeschooling is not what you want to do. But do you want to deprogram your kid? Just think about it. The Urich family is suing because their daughter was subject to a lot of the same treatment as Lee's daughter, where students were told by WMS art teacher and staff sponsor of the school-sponsored GSA club, Jenna, that if they do not like their bodies, they were most likely not the gender they were assigned at birth. Really think about this. They're telling kids during puberty that if you don't like your body, you're not the gender you were assigned at birth. Does anyone like their body during puberty? I don't think so. In addition, Jenna encouraged secrecy, confidentiality, and suspicion about whether or not her parents could be trusted with these discussions, and invited the Urich's daughter to attend a meeting with Splash, the organization that Chambers was associated with. Following the meeting, their daughter began to have her first thoughts of offing herself and started leaving notes for her parents about transgenderism and stating she was aromantic and asexual. In the fall of 2021, she started to question her gender identity. I really want to, this is a point that hasn't been emphasized enough. What they're doing is they're taking perfectly healthy kids that are going through the socially awkward stage that many of us have gone through. They're telling them they're trans. The kids believe them because these are their teachers. They're supposed to believe them. They're supposed to trust them. And then the kids believe they're trans, and they start to hint around about it. And in the process of that, they're creating such massive cognitive dissonance in the heads of these kids who are not emotionally mature enough to even understand what's happening, that the kids are getting depressed and suicidal. The process that the schools are putting these kids through is making them depressed, is actually impacting their mental health very severely. So anytime you hear one of these trans activists say that if you don't allow your kids to trans themselves, then you are going to literally kill them. No. If you try to convince a child that is already confused enough, that is already having enough to deal with in terms of like going through puberty and like not been feeling awkward and all of that, and maybe not, not fitting in other than that, and then you try to convince them that they're trans, like when they're not, it creates massive cognitive dissonance in their head. They're getting really confused, and that confusion is leading them to be depressed and suicidal. We have heard story after story after story after story like this. There was another story I covered on my Substack. Here, I'll show it to you. There was another story I covered on my Substack a while ago. Where is it? It was around the same time as that other one. This one right here. New York teacher and elementary school sued for secretly transitioning a 10-year-old. This is also a lawsuit, by the way. You can go and see the lawsuit for yourself. But the parents found out that this teacher was secretly transing their fifth grader, 10 years old, fifth grader, when the fifth grader, several months after this teacher started using a different name and different pronouns than the parents were using, the fifth grader ended up in the school psychologist's office after having drawn pictures that indicated they were having thoughts of offing themselves. We've seen this over and over and over and over and over again. This is massively impacting the mental health of these kids. Following their meeting, we saw that already. After her experiences at the GSA club, her relations with her friends deteriorated, and she was not comfortable with the idea of potentially taking classes with them. The daughter's well-being underwent a significant decline to the point where she asked to be homeschooled. That might have been a blessing in disguise. She eventually attempted to off herself by drinking bleach and has since verbalized that her disturbed emotional state began when she attended the GSA at the middle school. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. I understand that homeschooling your kids is not convenient. Although I would argue it's going to be more convenient in the long run. I understand that it requires you to make sacrifices. I understand that it requires you to look at life in a way that is fundamentally different than you've done before and were prepared for. I really do get it. I understand that many people are using the schools as babysitters. It's taxpayer-funded babysitting. I get it. But do you see? Do you see what happens? This is not unusual, guys. We have seen so many stories like this in the past couple of months. Is it worth it? Is the state-sponsored babysitting worth it? I'm sorry this is hard. I really am. I am sorry that the schools are not the same schools that existed when you were in school. I am sorry they've taken them over. I am sorry that this is the current state of affairs. I am sorry that it seems like there is no other option except to pull your kids out of the schools. I really, really am. I wish this wasn't the case. But this is the reality that we're dealing with. This is reality as it is right now. And it's not going to get better. It might someday, several decades from now, if everyone really hunkers down and starts doing what's required to actually fix the situation. But I'm telling you, if you have kids in school right now, the situation is not going to improve while your kids are in school. This is a generational problem to fix. Not a year, not a couple years. Any influencers that are telling you we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, they are lying and they don't understand what they're talking about and they don't understand how change management works. The left built this up over the course of the last 5 decades. This is the end result of 40 to 50 years of a battle of inches every single day. You don't fix problems like that overnight. You don't fix problems like that in a year. You don't fix problems like that in 2 years. You don't fix problems like that in 12 years. This is generational. So I'm sorry, but the only choice that makes sense to me is people with school age children need to get them out of the public schools. School choice is not going to fix this problem because it's in all the schools. So you can send Johnny to the school down the street and Johnny's still going to be able to get into a GSA. And Johnny's still going to be taught by the same teachers that graduated from the same colleges of education. School choice doesn't fix it. I'm sorry. That's the way it is.